Preparation Avengers, a weekly podcast with up-to-date impressions on every film in the MCU leading up to Infinity War on May 4th. I'm your moderator, Thomas Rogers, and joining me this week, Danny, DKP Kilpatrick.
Infinity War's on when?
April 7th, 27th.
Yeah.
Yeah, the date just changed today. Good call out there. Danny, DKP Kilpatrick. Paul Pebiv Burns.
That's me.
And from Idify is not joining us this week. We're recording at a weird time, so
He got AIDS and had to sit this one out.
all of that is 100% factual.
He called up and said, "You see, my T-cell count is low, so I have to sit this one out, guys. I'm sorry. I'll catch you next time."
It's a pretty good impression.
I know. I got it down, man.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I give Idify a 10.
Give it a 10. All right, so
I got 10 T-cells, you know what I'm saying?
normally we record this show live on Twitch. We noticed that our Twitch audience was not there, so pretty much consistently. So we decided we're just going to record it and put it on YouTube. If you guys want us to do it live on Twitch and you want to watch it, let us know in the comments below, and we'll make an adjustment. And
Or post to our Facebook
Or we
group.
won't. I don't know.
Or we won't. If anybody out there listening to this wants us to do this live on Twitch, let us know in the comments below. So for starters, we watched Thor: The Dark World.
So, we certainly did.
We certainly did. Let me get into a few facts, some information, and then we'll get into all the juicy detail bits. Thor: The Dark World. It was released on October 22nd, 2013. This was about 5 months after Iron Man 3.
I was wondering how far apart they were.
Yeah. After this, they start like bam, 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 bam. Like, I think it's the year after that we start in 2014, maybe 2015, then we start getting 3 per year. So, although it seems like we're getting close, we're only about halfway. It had a budget of $170 million. Iron Man 3's was $200 million, and Thor's, the original Thor's, was $150 million. So, yeah. It had a box office return of $644.6 million compared to Iron Man 3's $1.2 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. So about half as well. And Thor's $449 million. So more than Thor, less than Iron Man 3, which is not too surprising. The Iron Man movies. Now, again, Iron Man 3 making over $1 billion. Very impressive. And
MCU had sort of started to gain some momentum now. So I think that you're going to start getting people who aren't necessarily interested in Thor, but are here just for the universe itself.
These are no longer just comic book movies. They are like the biggest movies on the planet. So this was directed by Alan Taylor. So Alan Taylor has a couple of movie credits, but most of his credits are TV credits. The only movie credit of note that I could recall was Terminator Genesis, the recent Terminator film.
Oh my God, that actually makes sense.
His TV credits include 7 episodes of Game of Thrones. Some pretty good ones too. Sopranos, Rome, Mad Men, Boardwalk Empire. He would direct random episodes here and there.
Well, Rome was a good series.
Yeah, absolutely. Mad Men, Boardwalk Empire, Lost, Deadwood. Like, all these are amazing television series. So he's a pretty decent television director.
I feel like we had the same conversation last week with Ryan Johnston.
Ryan Coogler?
Yes, Coogler.
The guy who directed Black Panther?
Mr. Lethal
No.
Weapon.
Shane
The guy who did The Nice Guys, who it's like,
Shane
wow,
Black.
what
Shane
a great
Black.
movie. That same dude directed Iron Man 3 and wrote it?
Yeah.
What a fucking tragedy.
But he also did Lethal Weapon and stuff, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, never mind.
This guy who did...
I guess he has carte blanche to fuck up a couple times.
This guy who did Dark World didn't make any lethal weapons, is all I'm saying.
We're going to get into it a little bit, but I don't think the director's the problem here. The people that I think are the problem, written by Don Payne and Robert Rodat.
Who apparently have never had a conversation in their entire
Who
lives.
the fuck is Renee Zellweger? Who are those guys?
I don't know, man.
They do not know how people talk.
I did
that is
not
for
look up
sure.
their credits. I was not interested in what they've done beforehand.
Robert Rodat?
Rodat. Are you looking it up live?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Wild.
While you're doing that, I'm going to get to the cast. Chris Hemsworth reprises his role as Thor. Natalie
Guy looks
Portman.
like a douche.
Robert Rodat. Man, he wrote Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan?
The Patriot?
All right, so that's weird.
He wrote Lego Marvel Avengers, the video game.
The Catcher was a
Oh,
guy.
wait, no.
The Catcher was a spy. I see.
Wow.
Huh. Well, he did
Tall
write.
Tale?
He wrote some good
That was a
things.
90s classic. I mean, he
So
wrote
he-
a couple of good things.
All right, and yeah, I'll get to the other guy.
Natalie Portman as Jane Foster.
Who I love, and other people may not.
My wife is a big Natalie Portman
We'll talk
fan.
about the. You mean you like Natalie Portman?
Not Jane Foster. I don't think
Foster.
anyone on earth likes Jane Foster, including Natalie Portman.
I don't know, man.
There's a whole lot of drama.
People not on Earth don't like Jane Foster, including Thor.
No, it's true. Tom Hiddleston returns as Loki. Anthony Hopkins returns as Odin.
Which I was super disappointed. It's not his fault, but
That's what I'm saying. The people that I put the blame on this movie for are the two writers.
sorry to
Because I
interrupt.
think
I just wanted to call out that I
you're good.
love Anthony Hopkins, and any things that I may say about this movie should not reflect badly upon that actor.
Yes, I completely agree.
Oh
Christopher.
man, look at this. Don Payne wrote Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Oh, what
That
a
is-
Jim!
Not
He did
surprising.
some Simpsons episodes. And
Probably Simpsons episodes like after 1997, which is about the time that it went downhill.
you guys remember Veronica's Closet, right? That Jim?
I don't actually know.
He also wrote the screenplay for the original Thor, My Super Ex-Girlfriend, Men Behaving Badly, and it's some other garbage.
A bunch of stuff.
These guys had
Somebody's gotta write
$170
it.
million. What
Somebody.
a fucking tragedy.
What a tragedy. Christopher Eccleston as Malekith.
Wait,
Yeah.
Doctor Who was
Yeah.
Malik? My favorite Doctor was
Yeah.
I am so glad I never
didn't
knew
notice
that.
it the first time. I noticed it this time. Like, one of the first times he started talking, I was like, holy shit.
That is bizarre.
He's more recently known for The Leftovers. He was the preacher in The Leftovers. Have you guys seen The Leftovers yet?
He was in Heroes too.
He was in Heroes, but I can't speak to that because I stopped watching it after the first season. Jamie Alexander returns as Lady Sif. Zachary Levi takes over for Fandral.
And he actually had I was watching for him this time because I recently started watching Chuck again.
I've never seen Chuck. I've always been interested in Chuck, but never watched it.
So I can't exactly recommend it, but it's one of those shows I enjoy seeing every time I see it. It's sort of like a guilty pleasure, but I would never recommend it to anyone. But I caught him this time because I was like, oh, Chuck's in this. I'm going to watch for him, and I saw him.
Yeah, he replaced the actor from the first one.
That's an interesting
Fandral.
story about that. I can talk about later.
No, I want to hear it now.
So the originally he was committed for another movie that ran long that forced him to not be able to do the original Thor, and he felt really bad about it. So he got his friend to do the role for him.
Okay.
And then when this one came back, his friend said, "Well, I'm returning this to the man that it was originally intended for
That's pretty
to take
interesting.
over for the role." And I thought that was
I had this hope in my heart that the other guy would read the script and was like, nah.
I'm out
not
of here,
doing this.
fam. This
I'm
is
not
no
doing
good.
this movie. Ray Stevenson returns as Volstagg. Tadanobu Asano returns as Hogan. Idris Elba returns as Heimdall. Rene Russo as Frigga. Adewale Akinoye Agbaje returns as
Not going to
Alrim
work here anymore.
/Curse. He's like Malekith's right-hand man who
That dude.
who becomes the giant demon guy. That guy, he plays the preacher from season 2 of Lost.
Oh,
the
yeah.
really badass preacher with like the stick.
Huh.
Very cool character. Kat Dennings returns as Darcy Lewis.
It's DKP's favorite character.
Stellan Skarsgård is back as Eric Selvig.
That's my new guy. I fucking hate him in these movies too.
I love that guy.
I'm
He's one of
so
my favorites.
sick and fucking tired of seeing him in these movies.
He's actually the redeeming quality of this movie.
He's actually pretty good in this movie.
He's like the one part of this movie I liked.
I'll say this: he's better in this
spoilers.
than he is in Avengers.
Well, sure, but like, I don't know. He just doesn't.
He's actually a character.
He just
in this.
doesn't need to fucking be in the movies, though.
Oh, but he does. And like the bit
No,
where
I think he's important to the plot.
I just got to call out one piece that he just did perfectly.
He's
that
important
the
to this
actor
piece of shit plot by these
absolutely
piece of shit writers.
Was necessary for this. Him acting made this scene work. Is the scene where Thor says, "My brother is dead," and he goes, "Oh, good." I mean, that's terrible. That was just brilliantly done, and he had so little to work with, and he redeemed it. That's all I'm saying.
I like all the stuff with him running around in his underwear and
Me
stuff.
too. I thought that was great.
I was rolling my eyes with that shit. I don't know what it was like that. It just didn't. It seemed too fucking Marvel-esque obvious.
And he carried around the thing that was going to save the
For
day
humor,
with him,
you know?
and he made fun of the fact that he was carrying around the thing that was going to save the day. It was he had this weird meta consciousness that I liked.
Well, let's not get into that yet, because we're talking about like the thing he was carrying around and what saved the day in the end. I don't think we're quite there yet, because there's a lot to.
I will agree. I'm
there.
latching on to the parts I can speak kindly of.
Chris O'Dowd plays Richard. Richard is the person that she goes on a blind date with, that she calls later in the movie when they're like in the other dimension or whatever. The guy from the IT crowd.
The second best part of this movie. I love that guy. It's so sad to me that he had such a small part.
I feel fucking bad as shit for that guy.
Me too. What
What a piece of shit Natalie Portman is.
I have been on that date many times, and let me tell you, that guy did perfectly at being that guy.
Well, I don't know how much more you can like just get dicked that hard and like be more graceful and understanding about it.
Oh no,
I know this is a fake character.
I can save this movie in one action, and you know what it is? At the end, Natalie Portman goes, "Fuck you, Thor. I'm out of here," and calls him up and says, "Hey, let's go out and have some fun."
And then he goes, "Yeah, fuck you."
Even that would have been better.
Like, you stood me up, like you fucking called me, like you wasted my time. Like, no.
It is impressive that she called him
That
from
would
the
have
other
been
side of
great.
the universe.
Was it impressive or just more like necessary for the plot for no reason?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, this movie fucking. Jesus
I have a
Christ.
task for you, DKP.
Okay.
Now, this is something that no one on Earth, including the writers of this movie, have ever been able to do. What is the plot of Thor: The Dark World?
Oh my god.
I forgot I was doing this. Okay.
This is really a cruel ask.
So, god damn. All right, the plot of Thor: The Dark World is about this ancient race of who gives a fucks who once had this thing. It's for whatever reason, it's like it can destroy everything, and you don't really see how or doesn't really do anything. It's like a big red space cloud kind of, but it also is paired up with like a single like little kidney stone of it too that you can shove into people, make them like, I don't know, all roided out. So basically, Odin's father, Bor, named after the movie, genocides these elves and then is like, no, we need to bury this weird red glowing shit somewhere that no one can ever find it, except for when, out of all people, Jane Foster finds it. And I'm not going to tell anyone either, just in case like it might be important in the future. I'm just going to assume that no one will ever look for it nor find it. But, and I'm also not going to tell my son Odin that we didn't kill them all. We just kind of went, you guys can, I guess, go out there and permafreeze, and hopefully we'll never see you again. So that's how they this whole time went in disguise. These dark elves, right? No one knew they were alive. Not even Odin, because his dad didn't tell him for some dumbass reason that they were still out there frozen. So that's important. So fast forward, like, 5,000 years, I think it is? Natalie Portman, it happens to be in London, and there's, like, this weird shit that she's, I don't know, who gives a fuck, really? And then, like, she somehow finds out that there's these portals because they have these machines that, like, yeah, the energy signatures are wildly varying, and it's just stupid. And they go, and there's, like, these kids, and and this movie's obsessed with shoe jokes, which is a thing I've noticed we'll get to later, maybe. But they throw shoes into some shit. They throw like Coke cans.
They do throw some shoes.
They do. She gets teleported.
It does lead to a really good joke later, where Thor goes, "Why are there so many shoes here?" That was funny as hell.
I guess I missed that, but that would make 4 shoe jokes in the movie.
Yes.
So I think these writers might have like a foot fetish or something, or at least one of them. But anyways, so yeah, she gets pulled into the portal somehow and is right there at the red shit, which then proceeds to like give her like basically like space aids. So she comes back and Thor's like, well, now I can visit you, I guess. Now that you've got these space aids. So he comes back and then is like, come on, we're going to Asgard. And then the police
No, he didn't
like,
even say that. He just kidnaps her.
well, the police are like, you stop, guy that everyone knows who saved the planet. You're trespassing. And he's like, sorry, boys, I gotta bounce because I'm sexy and dangerous. Then he fucking leaves. Goes back. Odin's a dick for no reason. Like, Thor, your girlfriend has space aids. I know they don't have a cure for space aids on Earth, but they have doctors on her own planet. Let her go die there. So he's just kind of being a weird fucking territorial piece of shit. Meanwhile, the moment she got the space aids, the fucking Dark Elves wake up and they use their 5,000-year-old technology to come and destroy Asgard.
Just crush them.
Yeah, like their 5,000-year-old technology, which hasn't, improved at all.
Hey.
Neither has Asgard's. This has gotten worse, I guess.
Hey, you know what we could do? We can make plans for if we ever run into people like this again. But yeah, that seems like too much trouble. Let's just assume they'll never come back.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's not even fucking tell anybody.
I thought that scene was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, it looked great.
Whenever they show up and they
But
have
we'll
their
get there.
5,000
I'm not done with
spaceships.
the shitty ass plot yet, because and you might think there's a lot to go, but I don't know how to explain the rest of it.
I think you're doing fine.
Yeah,
getting,
you're actually doing
I
remarkably
legit
well.
don't know how to explain the rest. We'll get there in a second. But he's like, so Thor's mom dies. Whomp, whomp, whomp. That's really not talked about much afterwards. Out of like one scene, I thought it was a pretty big deal, but
It seems to bug Loki.
yeah, out of all people, like he gives a shit. But anyways, he's like, oh well, the one person who I need to help me out is going to be Loki, and he gets like Idris Elba killed almost because he's like, treason. Which like Idris Elba's like, look, I can't go against my king. He's like, well, what if I kind of give you the moves? And he's like, okay, I'll do it. And then just like completely does it. And they escape Asgard because there's some weird thing where Odin or Loki or Odin doesn't want to do anything, and that's stupid. But they basically just give the shit to the fucking, they find the Dark Elves, deliver it, and then he's like, I need to go to Midgar because it's the the middle, I guess, of the 9 realms. I guess that's why.
Do not ask me to explain that.
But he's like, I want to make everything dark because I get sunburn easy as fuck, fam. And he goes and like, I don't know. You see Kat Dennings is a bunch of nonsense with the doctor, and he's got these like tiki torch things that look like they're made out of plastic and they get an Etch-a-Sketch that can like distort reality, and then he fucking dies, and then Thor takes off again. But then it comes back, and then it's like you never see her again. It's stupid. And that's Thor: The Dark World.
It's stupid.
I think that really did sum it up pretty well.
Yeah.
It's fucking.
Let's review this movie.
I want to start out if I can.
Please.
The first hour 15 minutes of this movie, I was like, wow, this is such a good fucking movie comparatively to how I remember it. Like, I don't remember, like, the moment they went to go fight the Dark Elves, I don't know, like, the preceding 45 minutes, I don't know exactly what, but I was fucking miserable, and it changed, like, my entire viewing experience.
I spent a lot of time, so I also did not enjoy this movie. And I had a hard time figuring out why I didn't enjoy it. But I can point at the exact time where the movie went south for me. It's when Jane Foster landed next to an Infinity Stone and then touched it. That was the point where I was like, wait, you just got teleported randomly to the point in the plot needed you to be, and then it just got worse from there. It just went downhill. But before that point, I was really enjoying it.
Wait, are you talking about the intro where she gets the space aids?
Basically.
Where she gets the space age.
So you're talking like less than 20 minutes into the movie.
Yep, that was the point where I just sort of went south.
Sure.
But I loved the beginning. I liked the battle at the beginning. I liked the way some of the ways that it looked. I liked kind of the idea of it. As long as you didn't talk about the conjunction, I was okay with it. And as soon as convergence, as soon as they started talking about conjunctivitis, I was just like, what?
I'm kind of on the opposite end. I actually like the last half of this movie and did not like the first half.
That is absurd to
Interesting.
me.
Yeah. To me, the movie started getting good whenever Loki and Thor, basically the scene where they're all kind of planning out what they're going to do, where he has where he has his group with him.
Please.
So it's all the group together, and it's them planning out what they're going to do while at the same time showing what's happening.
The Ocean's 11 scene.
Yeah, where they talk about their plans, and while we're getting to see those plans, up through them going to whatever the name of the dark elf planet is. I can't remember what it is.
Who gives a
the
fuck?
Dark World?
Sure, the Dark World. Yes. All the stuff with that, and then like the pulling the wool over your eyes of like, okay, Loki, they actually did some trickery and teamed up and did some weird stuff to where you think Loki's in a different place than he is, and then you think that Loki's actually this, like all the stuff that happens with Loki, with him kind of pulling the wool over people's eyes, all that stuff I thought was really awesome.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean it fits his character.
Absolutely.
All of that stuff I thought was good. I never realized how much when I saw it, I didn't care for it too much the first time. But this time, I thought the final fight was really awesome when they were like jumping in and out of all the different portals, going to the different worlds, and like the fighter jets are flying through the portals.
Sir,
and they're
you
going
have gone
into weird
fucking
worlds.
mad.
I thought that shit was so badass looking.
I think it wasn't earned. So
That's fair.
I'm okay with that event being. I thought it was cool looking. I just felt like the rules of it were so arbitrary that it wasn't very interesting to me. It just seemed like Jane Foster would poke at her thing and then random shit would happen.
That's the problem that I had. It's like
I blame the first half of that movie for that, though, because I feel like the first half should have better set up the world and how all of that stuff worked.
I can give you that. So like her being, so I love the scene with her and the kids in the warehouse. That's the one part of this movie I remember.
You would, wouldn't you?
I did. Well, but I love Natalie Portman. So that scene
what I was
to me
referring to.
was a whole lot of fun. The kids were fun. I liked them making fun of like the little dumb things, like the intern throwing the keys into it, and that of course is the thing that doesn't come back out. Those things were really good for me, but they stopped and they didn't give us any more of like what this meant and how it related to what this conjunction was or convergence or whatever the fuck they're talking about.
We'll call it the conjunction.
Junction.
Converge and function. What the fuck's this movie's function?
Exactly.
Take it in space aids and spitting out infinity stones.
So when you come to that point, I felt like I agree that they could have done a better job talking about that. But that wasn't my problem with this movie. My problem with this movie was that I didn't get the story about the people that I was interested in.
Yeah.
Which people were those?
So I wanted to know more about, so like specifically the one that I think really hurt the movie the most was Loki's relationship with Frigga. If they had done more to establish what his relationship was with his stepmother, his motivations, his whole everything that was going on with him,
all that stuff totally worked for me.
Yeah, like I just thought of it as like they grew up together, but Odin was kind of a dick after. Well, not a dick. I mean, he did like
he was
commit treason and tried to like kill, take over the earth. But it's the mother's love bit where she's like, "Look, still my son," and like. He felt that. That's all I really needed. Like,
I get that, but
the scene whenever he like walks up to him to convince him to go on that little journey with him, and then he's like, "Quit with the act," or whatever he says, and then he lowers the veil that he has up, and it's just Loki, and he looks like fucked up, and his whole room's destroyed, and all that. Like,
I'll give you that.
All that is like clearly someone who has a strong bond with their mother that lost their mother.
But I
like,
wanted to know
that stuff
more.
worked
Like
for
Loki seemed to be made of like his skills and his abilities and his problem solving seemed to be based around Frigga. So she was the illusionist. She was the one that would trick people. But the movie never gave us her doing those things.
I didn't know that at all.
Well, yeah. So like when they get to the
I just
end, they
assumed because
discuss it several times.
she did the bit where Natalie Portman's character was an illusion. And I was like, okay, well, how? That's I just put two and two together. So well, probably he learned it from.
And I think that and when he died, he taught Thor makes several comments, and so like. After seeing this movie again, I sort of put it together. But if the movie had given me that at the beginning, some sort of her and Loki having a relationship, then I would have been much more interested in how Loki responded to her death. And I think that it could have given us more. And I'd have cared more about who she was and why she died.
Loki to me is the best in this movie than he is in any of the other. Like, this is the best version of Thor.
Believe it or not, I agree.
Like, so you get to see a lot of what he is capable of and how he is capable of.
I don't want
this is like this is Loki getting shit right. Whereas I feel like Avengers and Thor, it was like the Wile E. Coyote thing where he was just constantly
it was like him not
up.
being a villain and not being the fucking Wile E. Coyote bit. Him just playing a supporting role is where he needs to be.
I thought he did awesome.
So I'll give you, I love the final trick that he performs when he appears to be betraying Thor.
Yeah.
I thought that was very well handled. I will totally, and in fact, just little things like the special effects of him doing his thing was actually worked really well for me.
I mean, he had to redeem himself some way. Because, like, I bet
But he does, but he also doesn't. That's
right,
what's so great about it is he's, like, still up to kind of his same thing.
like, him helping Thor out, like, because, okay, picture it this way. He's real bummed out, obviously, about his mother's death, right? But he was the fucking... I'm sure he thought about this, too. The dickhead who was like, oh, yeah, take the stairs on the left to go kill my mother. Oh, whoops, that's what you're gonna go do? Remember when the Who Gives a Fuck, like, is walking around fucking shit up, and he's like... Yeah. Take the stairs on the left.
Cursed
curse.
Oh, whatever. Boo. God, I can't wait to talk about the Dark Elves. But, like, yeah, like, he basically, like, and I don't know if it really made a difference, but, like, assisted the enemy? I bet that weighs on him. He's got to redeem himself somehow.
No, that's true.
I did like the fact that they called back to... So in the first movie, Heimdall is mad at Loki because he knows Loki has a secret way in and out of Asgard. And that part was really interesting to me, that they came back to that, and that was the trick that he had. But then the actual trick of how he was getting in and out of Asgard was the dumbest thing I'd ever thought of.
Like, it's a hole in a cliff.
Drive a boat at it as fast as you can.
Those boats are badass looking.
They are badass looking, but I'm sorry, that was just so, like, dumb.
Before we go too far down a rabbit hole, I want to say that, like, my big kind of revelation that I had while watching this was... This has the exact opposite issue that Iron Man had, where Iron Man 3 is an amazing idea that just wasn't done really well. This is like a terrible idea that I thought they did. I thought they did a lot of really cool things.
Well, they tried their ass off.
Everybody was trying so hard to make a good movie. Like, I think the cinematography is amazing. I think the acting is good. I think the costumes are top notch. Like
100%.
What I wanted to say about Natalie Portman is like,
with the exception of like what the fucking like Romulan looking guys, the fucking they remind me of someone from Star Trek, but
the ones with the masks.
No, oh god, no, I'm not even talking about those. I'm talking about like the moment you first see the Dark Elf and the little thing goes shook shook shook, and they got like the dreads, but like the kind of black armor that's like plated on. Is that never mind, fuck it, that was terrible.
What's Worf from Star Trek?
He's a Klingon.
Yeah, that wasn't Klingon. Okay. But whatever.
Natalie Portman, not a Natalie Portman fan,
right?
She is gorgeous in this movie.
I agree.
To me, this is like the prettiest Natalie Portman's ever been in anything. Like, the way her costume looks and like her makeup and like everything is just perfect throughout this whole movie.
And she was really good, with the exception of her relationship with Thor, which just fell flat.
Yeah.
And I love Natalie Portman. I will cut her all the slack in the world, but I am sorry, she should have broken up with him the minute he showed up.
Do you know the story behind like why Natalie Portman is so disconnected from the Marvel Cinematic Universe now?
No.
Originally,
no one likes
Patty Jenkins was supposed to direct this movie.
Oh, that's the lady that did Wonder Woman lady?
Yeah. And it was like this huge seminal thing of like, hey, there's this huge comic book movie, and it's going to be the first woman director to direct. And she was the one championing her taking.
She was going to direct it, not write it.
Yeah, she was.
She definitely made a great decision on waiting.
Oh, for sure. But Natalie Portman was heavily involved in Patty Jenkins being involved, and they basically just like pulled the rug out from under Patty Jenkins. They like Marvel just did the Marvel thing that they do, and they just completely said, no, we got somebody else to do it. Not like didn't have good reasoning behind it, whatever, creative differences or whatever.
We don't want some Scooby-Doo name sounding woman directing our shit, okay?
So Natalie,
we're gonna give it to Robert Atkins.
So Natalie Portman.
Alan Taylor
So Natalie Portman was grumpy about this, and you
was
think that
very,
might
very,
have
very
affected
upset
her
about
performance?
it. Even to the point to where like they wanted her to come back and film the post-credit scene, and she filmed like they had pieces of it that she'd already filmed, but they didn't have the complete package. So like the scene, it's kind of spoiling later in the show, but the scene where Thor and her kiss is actually Chris Hemsworth's real wife dressed as Natalie Portman.
No way, really?
Yeah. Like she refused to come back for that scene.
Is so fucking important that they're like, well, it doesn't all fall in place, so I guess we're going to replace one of the actresses when it's such a who gives a fuck scene.
Well, it's the only scene where the two of them had any chemistry. Jane Foster and Thor only had chemistry in that scene, which makes so much more sense to me now that I know that it wasn't Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but
but I think that she did really well, even considering all of that. Like, I found her interactions with Richard, the guy she screws over, and her interactions with Darcy, and her interactions even with Odin. Like, I love the bit where Odin compares her to a goat, and she goes, he did! And she, like, turns around and is, like, gonna kick his ass. And I thought that was really inspired.
I like where she walks up and she's like, I don't remember what she says to Loki, but she says something to Loki and then slaps the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And then...
that's says, for New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for New York. And then Loki's like, oh, I like her.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I thought that was good.
I don't know, man. That's all just
it's hokey Marvel shit.
Obvious
Yes.
Marvel writing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're not wrong, but it worked for me.
Me too.
Okay.
But yeah, like, going back to what I was saying...
There were some funny parts that worked for me in this movie. Nothing that had to do with Natalie Portman, though. Don't ask me to name any of the parts that I thought were funny.
Well, I was about to say, like, there was a part that I really liked
right now,
where Thor said or did something that I thought was hilarious, but I can't remember what that scene was.
Yep. I know there were a couple moments when I laughed, but I can't tell you what they were.
I just to go back real quick to the parts of this movie, not the actual scenes, but the parts of this movie that I liked. It was extremely beautiful.
Yeah.
The editing had all the colors be like really warm colors, and I really liked the way it looked throughout the whole movie. And I love the way the costumes, like they had certain colors pop, and you can see it in the image that we have for the video here. But like the red of Thor's cape really kind of pops, and they do a good job of like having these gray and blue colors that are offset with these like gold of Asgard and
they had really good transitions. Like there was a transition in the very beginning of the movie where they get sucked up by the Bifrost, and then the scene pans, and all that light glimmering becomes the actual bridge that leads to the Bifrost. It was just like little subtle pieces like that worked very well for me.
Like there's a really good movie somewhere in here. It just like what you are absorbing while you're watching this movie on a like very superficial level is just not good or interesting.
All right, I know the part that I thought was like, if we're talking about what's good, the one part that like I could point back and say I really enjoyed that was Captain America's cameo.
Oh, that was actually awesome.
Where Loki pretends to be him, and he's like, "Hey, you want to talk about doing the right thing and about being patriotic, there, son?"
Yeah,
that was phenomenal. I thought that was great.
Yeah,
and when he turns Thor in, and like his line where he's like, "It won't hurt any less in this form when I kill you," like. That was like, it's like somebody else wrote that scene entirely and like sold them just that scene for the movie. But yeah, no, like that worked.
Outside of that, I did. Outside of all of that type of stuff, this is not a fun,
hold on. The part where
movie.
Hermes fucking goes up and like sees like the
Heimdall, yeah. That seems badass.
Like breaking continuity there. Yeah, when he sees like he runs, and at first I was like, "What? This is stupid." I thought he was gonna run all the way to Asgard, slow as fuck, on the Rainbow Bridge, and I was thinking like, "There's got to be a faster way to do this shit."
And a better way to attack a spaceship.
I don't know, man. He fucking decimated it.
Well, that's the 5,000-year-old technology part. You can just walk up and just fucking stab a knife into the side of it.
So you would think. And oh man. We haven't even started tearing apart the plot holes of this movie, and there are They are aplenty.
So I want to talk, and I don't want to drag us, but if we're talking bad stuff in this movie, I want to talk about the Dark Elves.
I think that's going to be the rest of this conversation for the most part.
My first question is,
at least for me.
I watched this. The version of this movie that I watched did not have any subtitles.
Oh, dude, I had the same shit until about a quarter way through.
So I literally had to go out to the internet and looked up elves subtitles Thor Dark World, download it, and then integrate it with my stupid DVD. I had a really old DVD for it. So here's my question: did anyone else have subtitles for the elves?
I had subtitles for everybody because I was watching.
Because you watched the subtitled version.
Yeah,
I didn't at first, and then like it hit a certain point where I was like, I don't. I think I'm supposed to be understanding what they're saying here, like, but the subtitle track isn't here.
I don't think they translated them in the movie originally either, and so that's my question.
It's not hard coded in.
Yeah. So so the movie got better when I added subtitles for the elves. They made a little bit more sense. But
yeah, I would imagine so.
But here's the deal. They were a wholly uninteresting bad guy. Marvel is known for having bad villains in their movies. But this is like the
penultimate, though.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If we were to rank the villains, this is definitely at the bottom.
I don't know how you could come up with something less inspired and unintentionally uninteresting to this degree.
So, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Their motivation is to use the ether to make every world dark.
Yeah, so according to the mythology, if I'm following it, the universe was dark, and then light came, and the elves didn't like it. That's all I got. So
they want it to be dark again.
So they want it to be dark again.
And it was dark on their planet, remember?
It was. They come from the dark world.
Why the fuck didn't they just stay there?
I don't know. They were annoying.
Just rebuild, man. Rebuild civilization.
Well,
that's like me buying all the houses in my block and just living in this one.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck's the point?
But, like, you could, if you had spent a little time to talk about their motivation, okay, if they were space Nazis and their goal, they felt like they were the perfect species for populating the planet or the universe, and their job, like the Daleks was to go and destroy anything that was not them, that's something I could have bought into. But they didn't give us that.
Well, there's part of it that it's clear that there's revenge going on because the Asgardians stopped them and took them down. But that's clear from the idea of like how movies work, not clear from the movie itself.
Agreed.
The movie does not make it clear that they have like some sort of, I don't know, something that they want to accomplish in terms of vengeance.
Or like, can you say anything about their culture? Do you know anything about them?
They like being in the dark.
They do like being in the dark.
Being in the dark. That's exactly it. They were such a the Chitauri, whose entire existence or entire explanation was we sit in the dark and go, we're scary, was so much more interesting than these guys were.
It's true.
Well, because you have to think like, what the fuck do they do?
I know.
And then, let's say the world is dark. Like, you saw the world that they were fighting on. It was just nothing. It's like, even if everything was dark, like, what the fuck? Like, what do you do? Like, at least like when there's other villains, like, I want to take over the world. It's like, yeah, we have a society here, and like that works somehow. Like, it's just fucking terrible, man. I can't even describe it. Like, just how uninteresting and like. You think the problem is like, well, they didn't tell us enough, but at the same time, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm glad that they didn't spend the extra 10 minutes to tell us for these characters, because that would have been an extra 10 minutes that I wouldn't have wanted to see in this movie.
And the one relationship you saw ended in the first couple of minutes of these guys existing. So, like, the relationship between him and you said his name,
Curse.
Yes, that relationship was interesting when he was human, and then he just turned into a giant rage monster. And wait,
so you're talking about there was the dark elf, and then the
dark elf,
the darker elf.
Yes.
So Okay.
So
Sure.
So those two was at least a relationship. Like I could, like the two of them could talk about, what was our culture like, and why are we doing this? And
you're saying they could have.
They could have.
I was gonna say, yeah,
but
no,
they
didn't. No.
And instead, he like turns into a giant rage monster and becomes uninteresting.
He's like,
and by the
let
way,
me stab you and put this stone in you for no reason.
I literally screamed at the screen the first time that one of those cursed broke up one of their stones and shoved it into his own heart. And I was like, oh, well, this is kind of interesting. And then he turned into a lava creature, and I said, fuck you.
This is an Iron Man 3.
This is an Iron Man 3. Stop that lava creature
I
shit.
screamed at the screen the second Kat Dennings came on screen for the first time.
Well, I actually want to ask you about that.
Was in the
here
middle
in
of a
bit.
restaurant, but dressed like she was walking through the fucking Arctic.
She was.
Yes.
She was dressed that way. That is true.
Yes. It infuriates me.
So, I actually have a big question I have to ask about the intern's
Ask away.
intern. Well, it's a little off topic, but I'll go there. So here's my question. How did you feel about the fact that they put in Cheesecake as a man? I felt like the intern's intern was entirely, he was a completely flat character. The only reason he was there was to look cute. And I felt like it was like making fun of how they stick hot chicks in movies. He was like a hot dude stuck in a movie that was entirely flat and had no character.
No, that's Thor. But no.
I'm sorry, it's a recurring theme in this movie.
No, like that's giving it, like, thinking it's like meta is giving it far too much credit.
You
Absolutely
think they just
not.
like threw him in there?
They put him in for Kat Dennings' character
Darcy
to have a love
something to
interest,
do.
and for the like butt of jokes of like interns like I don't get paid either, like that typical swarmy.
It's the equivalent of hitting
shitty
Thor with your
Marvel
car
humor.
from the first one.
Well, it was
It's
very
just a
much
joke
hitting
that
Thor
they-
with the car. I agree.
It's a joke that they just want to play up consistently.
Well,
It is not good or interesting.
it didn't work for me.
No, me neither.
And I think that it was supposed to
It
play...
wasn't offensive, like, oh, like the character annoyed me and I didn't want him there. It was
No,
just
it's
like,
just uninteresting.
I see what you're doing, and I don't care. Like, it's not
I see
interesting.
what you're doing.
Exactly.
I'm not buying it. I'm not.
So, I got sort of off topic. So I just felt like the elves were uninterested. We weren't given enough about them to care about them. They had no relationships. They were just a completely flat enemy. They might as well have been stormtroopers.
See, my argument to that is, I don't know if there's anything you could have given them with how they are in this universe.
I think
to have
there's a
made
lot
them
of stuff you
interesting.
could have given
All
them.
right. So I was thinking about how I
purpose.
would have made this movie work. And this is probably a bad thing to do, but how I would have made this movie work is
Armchair director.
I would have
or
told
writer.
the story. Yeah, it's total armchair. It's
How about an
unfair.
armchair writer? I'm down
It's
with that.
armchair writer. There you go. So the way I would have made this work is I would have told the story from the perspective of the Dark Elves. I would have had the story of the Dark Elves and where they came from and their family and their peoples, and the Asgards come in and fucking destroy their universe, and they end their society, and boom, they've got to try and fight back. And then I tell that in comparison to Thor, who's standing on top, right? So you have the person on... I fucking... You know what movie did this right? Was Black Panther.
I was thinking the same thing while you were telling this story.
They should have Killmongered that stupid
gonna say,
Dark Elves.
Wait, so you wanted to spin it like Hitler and be like, no, look, Thor is the bad guy. He's keeping us down. We should all unite and get rid of all Asgardians.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I think from
a movie
sort of
standpoint,
some
though.
sort of like flashback that showed before the fight went down,
Exactly.
where it's like showing dark elf children or something,
Exactly,
and they have
something.
some sort of like
Or the all of their children
why that
dying of
world
light
works for
poisoning.
them.
Well, that's the other bit, too. Like, none of this movie makes sense. Okay, guys? It just doesn't. I mean...
We're trying to make it make sense.
No, hold on. Because, like, first off, like, okay, assuming that Bor, which is Odin's father, it wants to genocide the Dark Elves, which, like, fully seemed to be his intent, is so much to it. So okay, I can only assume he thought he did.
Yep.
Otherwise, just dumb, right?
In fact, he wrote a book about how he killed them all.
But they had the fucking Bifrost, which, like, man, what a fucking just when we need it, it fucking works in a film. Like, Oh, they've got the fucking Infinity Stone there. Well, just pop down the boop, 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 and bring it the fuck back.
The Asgardians,
Gotcha.
man, they have so many ways to just go wherever the fuck they want.
And like, what was Heimdall
like,
doing? He
remember-
just like, oh, I lost track of that one ship. Darn.
Yeah, remember the first one where they're like, oh yeah, if you point the Bifrost at some shit like a planet, it'll explode it. Why the fuck didn't you just do that? Because they have the fucking Bifrost.
Probably something to do with the ether, but whatever. I'm done. Go ahead.
By the way, like they just rebuilt the Bifrost.
Yeah, they didn't discuss that
It's
at
just
all.
like
It was
hey,
a non-event.
Back when the Bifrost was broken for like a weekend.
All right, so there's another thing that they totally fucked up in this movie. There was a really cool movie about how Jane Foster got screwed over by Thor. There was a really cool movie about how Odin didn't like Jane Foster and wanted him to be king, and was working against Thor, his true love, and Thor could overcome that to fall in love with the woman that he wanted, or he could not. But none of those things happen. He just fucking shows up and goes, yeah, I've been gone forever, and I was fighting some shit. And
It's dumb as shit. He's like, I was uniting the 9 realms, but I couldn't spend like a couple hours, even though it's convenient as fuck to get anywhere,
Or-
just to like, I don't know, send you a message or anything that like I'm thinking about you.
Write you a fucking letter.
Yeah,
just
put
just
in the
Bifrost
post.
down a letter.
Just like have him tell Tony Stark to tell her what's up.
Yeah, exactly. And he was in New York. It was so frustrating because I think that would have been a really neat story. I don't think that a relationship with a god is going to work out well. And I think telling the story of how that would fail would have been interesting, and they didn't do that.
I mean, I see Odin's point, and he's absolutely right. Like,
but on the other hand, why can't he just wait 60 years till she's dead? He goes, okay, sow your wild oats, and we'll make you king in 60 years. Hold on.
like Thor's Rumsprungen or whatever, like the Amish people, like, yeah, go out, have fun for what is the equivalent of God years, like a month.
He lives for 1,000 years, so
I thought they said like 5,000.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so he lived even worse. So
Yeah.
you're gonna take fucking 60 years? That is nothing.
Dude, that's like somehow finding a way to fall in love with a dog that you know is gonna die tomorrow. Like, just get a fucking new dog that'll that'll live at least like a quarter of your life.
Another
Have you
story.
ever loved a dog before?
I thought I did once, maybe.
And then it left him. He
It
woke
was
up the
taken
next
from
morning.
me, actually.
Oh no, that's
Yeah.
actually tragic.
The only thing I have left to say about this is, before I rewatched this, I forgot everything about this movie, and rewatching it, I realized why I forgot everything, because this movie is extremely forgettable.
It is.
I've got a
is-
lot to say about this.
It's not.
But I
It's
feel
not
like I have,
interesting
like,
enough, and
Alzheimer's where
it's
like
not
slowly
eventful
fleeting
enough.
away.
And even the things that can that can seem eventful are not actually. So like we have this ending scene where Loki's sitting on the throne as Odin, and you're like, oh man, this is going to be good. And then, it's kind of semi-spoiler alert, they don't really take that anywhere in Thor Ragnarok.
They do. He's still sitting on the throne.
Yeah, that's the resolution to Loki taking it is not a strong resolution.
Oh, that's true.
It's not a strong. It's something that seems like it's going to be something bigger than it is, and it doesn't pay off. Now that's not Thor: The Dark World's fault, but like, I don't know. It's just kind of boring and uninteresting.
Agreed.
And I wasn't super engaged in it. Although, like I said, there were a lot of things that I liked about this movie.
There's so many stupid fucking things in this movie. So like, okay, maybe you can explain this to me. How at the end it's like Eric Spelvig or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yep.
It's like, I've got these things that I've been creating, and first of all, it just happens to just work and like create anomalies that I learned how to control.
Yeah, it made no sense.
Stupid. I
I definitely can't explain that to
I
you.
hated that. Oh, by the way, Thor comes down, right? Confirmed sightings, witnesses, and Kat Dennings is like, S.H.I.E.L.D. won't return my calls. Don't even mention them. Do what Iron Man 3 did. Don't give me that bullshit where like S.H.I.E.L.D. wouldn't be interested enough in fucking Thor coming back, and along with, I'm sure they have to be aware of somehow. Like, just shut up. Don't do that.
Agreed.
Kat Dennings, period. We talked about the fact that she's got ginormous tits, but Disney literally puts her in Eskimo clothes to hide them. Fuck that. They did it again. Like no one else is dressing up the part. It doesn't make sense. I could talk about this for hours, but that in particular for hours
really bugs you
because like her character is annoying as shit,
What?
and her as an actress is not annoying as shit. Well, Tommy's going, and I'm just trying not to seem one-dimensional when it comes to how I rate actors and actresses, but yeah, no, you're right. The whole Asgard bit, dude. There's like, okay,
I did like the fight between Frida and Malekith. That was cool. Where she's like flipping around.
Frig off, Barb. Yeah.
I thought that there was one scene that annoyed me because they stole it from Star Wars The Old Republic. And it was just ripped wholesale from Star Wars The Old Republic.
It's the scene. Yeah.
It's the... Yeah, please.
Well, no, do you know what it is?
It's the scene where the ship comes flying into the Asgardian thing and it goes through all those pillars. That's like...
If you look at the very first trailer for Star Wars The Old Republic MMO, yeah, it's like shot for shot almost.
It's the exact same thing, and that just bugged me. I was like, that you're not even being original with your crappy CGI.
All I could think of was like, well, just that whole scene. Like, visually it looked cool, but that was right about where you lost me. There's the thought of like Asgard is this fucking defenseless all the time. Like, okay. So Loki or
it did make Ragnarok make more sense.
Odin's like, there are no dark elves. I'm being more coarse than I need to be for no reason. Then they book in a dark elf in custody, and like walks right the fuck in. Like, okay, when they're gonna throw someone in the dungeon for life, right? They don't check like to see like what race of person or like type like creature they are. There's no dark elves, and like one walks the fuck in, and like
he was wearing a mask. I got no defense against that.
You know, which movie came out first, Dark Knight or this?
Definitely The Dark Knight. That was like
this
2008.
movie ripped off Dark Knight too, man. When the fucking dude blows up in the jail cell.
Oh my god, they did rip off Dark Knight.
Yeah, suppose it doesn't have an original bone in its body. And even the Stan Lee cameo sucked and was obsessed with shoes.
Now there, I disagree. I'm holding off on talking about it, but we can get to it.
Because you like Eric Svelvig, but we'll get there. I don't know if I have very much more. Like, just none of this movie made sense. And like the first half, I was able to overlook it, but when like the second half hit, I just retroactively hated the first half. Like the old technology coming in, like we know to go in and break their shields because it couldn't have changed in 5,000 fucking years. It was just fucking stupid. The Dark Elves are fucking garbage. They stink.
I gotta say, this was not a movie that I enjoyed. I did not have a good time with this movie, and I can't really recommend it. It was not overtly offensive, but I came out of this movie going, where did those 2 hours go? They're just gone, you know? So I could have just as easily spent it knitting or, you know...
I was throwing up some WoW auctions on the side when I was watching this.
Exactly. It was super not engaging. So I cannot recommend it.
Anything else anybody has on this?
This is the worst ending to a movie of all time. Those Etch-a-Sketches...
I thought that scene was cool.
I can't believe
it. Doesn't make sense, but I thought it looked cool.
With just a little work, they could have made it make sense and look cool.
That's true.
That's all I'm saying.
And then you have the bit where the villain goes, "Whoa!"
You know I figured out how it works.
Boo.
Vibranium.
Oh, you think so?
It was a vibranium Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
That's it.
Anything else?
I feel like
we actually score it?
I'm tired. I feel like I'm rambling rather than giving coherent points.
Well, that's basically the movie. You're summing up the movie. It feels like a movie is just rambling. They're just rambling on because we got to make another Thor movie.
I enjoyed The Incredible Hulk more than this, even though it was a much worse movie because it gave me more to talk about.
For sure.
I love that Hork. He's top tier.
All right, let's score this bad boy.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
I do have Idify scores.
We do.
Although he couldn't make it, we made sure to get this score and his prediction for next week.
So we're gonna talk about what we thought we were gonna score it, and then score it, right? Okay.
So, our predictions for scoring this movie. Thomas Rogers, you predicted 7.7.
Boy, was I off on that.
What did you score it as?
5.5. I liked it more than Iron Man 3.
5. DKP, you predicted you would score this as a 6. What did you score it as?
Giving it a 4.
I predicted I would score this as a 6. I have a hard time scoring this. So, like, I want to give it a straight 70. Like it's a barely
7?
pass. Yeah, but it's not that good, so I can't. So I got to give it a straight 5. It is not. It's right in the middle. It's not painful or blatantly aggressively bad, but it is. There's nothing in it worth seeing. So I'm gonna call it a 5.
There you go. And Idify?
Idify predicted he would score this as an 8, and his score was
a 10.
Was a 5.5. So, which is actually, I look forward. I'm going to ask him about that because that's interesting to me. Like, I wish
had higher expectations.
Yeah, I would have liked to hear what he was hoping for.
For sure.
All right. That's what our score.
It's really weird. It's like this movie. Like the first half, I didn't hate it. So to score it a 4. But by the time I was done with it, I did. Like, it's like if you get like a ride home from a stranger, you're hitchhiking, and something happens, and you get out of the car early, and you find out later, like, oh, that guy was gonna murder me had I stayed. It kind of ruins the first part too, you know. Like, you don't feel as nice about that guy.
I appreciated that he was playing some Outkast on his radio.
Yeah, I was having a real good time. We listened to Counting Crows. You know, other sorts of lame music.
We had a couple of good anecdotal stories. But man, that murder half.
Now that I see him on the news as a serial murderer, like, yeah, I just don't feel as good about that ride anymore. It's kind of like that. Like, yeah. I'll go change his Uber. I gotta score him lower on Uber now.
All right, so we're about to get to our next segment, but I need to make sure I tell you about our sponsors this week. Our sponsors are all European sponsors.
Yeah.
So this week's sponsors are ITV News, Vimto, Old Volvos, the Bifrost Channel. I don't even know that's a thing. Stonehenge. Shout out to Stonehenge.
I don't think Stonehenge can sponsor people.
I like the idea of them
they sponsored us this time.
Some druids called us up and said, "I want to put 10,000 in."
You are
so clearly
saying the possible as we see it before us is impossible.
Stonehenge, you know, it's made out of vibranium.
Is it made out of vibranium too?
Is that what's going on there?
Shreddies, a delicious cereal Shreddies.
It's
and
true.
It was the best Ninja Turtles.
Charing Cross, which I have no idea what that is, but thank you for sponsoring our show this week.
You've reminded me of one of the things that totally annoyed me about this movie, and that is that Greenwich is the meantime in the world because that's where we invented the idea of longitude or latitude, one of the two.
I thought it was dumb when nobody in the movie made that reference either. Like, oh, it happens to be in Greenwich, and like, that's it.
That's the point. That's the center point for all of the 9 realms. Like, is in Greenwich. And all
it all makes sense
when
now.
when they showed up in Greenwich, I literally was like, "Fuck you, movie! Fuck you! That is a bridge too far. No one is gonna buy that."
You know what? Change my score. I'm going to 3. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. All right, it's time to move on to I'm a monster. So, can anybody tell me who lost a hand?
Thor.
Yeah.
Well, technically, that's not true. Nobody lost a hand.
No. Also,
an illusion of Thor lost a hand.
Also, Malekith lost his hands whenever they were making those portals hop up.
Oh shit! Did they double down just in case?
Yeah, just in case they were like, Thor didn't actually lose his hand.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was very well done.
Because remember, it's like an actual shot that we get of Malekith's arm like bouncing.
Which I guess we should explain
dimension.
real quick what this segment is.
Yeah. So if this is your first episode of the show, the creators at Marvel Studios are big Star Wars fans. So since Marvel breaks all their movie into phases, Phase 2 takes an inspiration from Empire Strikes Back, and in every movie within Phase 2, someone loses a hand or an arm. In this case, it was Thor and Malekith both lost.
And I just want to say that special effect for Thor losing his hand, that was actually really well done. I thought it was interesting. It was cool looking. And the other thing that had never occurred to me is how he couldn't use his hammer without his hand. It's an obvious thing, but that's such a big part of Thor, and like him not being able to grab the hammer was sort of spooky, and it sort of unmade him as a character.
Sure. I got a couple more things I hate about this movie real quick.
Please.
I hate it. This is a combination of two things. How bullshit smart Natalie Portman is by just throwing up made up terms. Like people use like, I'm going to give you a good quantum dicking, Tommy. See, that's smart because I put the term quantum in front of it. You like that? That shit annoys me to no fucking end. And when she was getting healed in the Who the Fuck Cares way, the soul healer, the soul stealer, the soul freeler. Soul Forge. It's just like, are those quantum gamma radiation particles? He's like, the lady's like, it's called Soul Forge. Like, yes, but are those quantum gamma? Is that?
She's like,
is that really?
Is this happening and then this happening and this happening? She's like, yeah. And she's like, it's quantum.
I just want to point out that everybody looked at me like I was crazy when I said that the Wakandan beads could just absorb healing energy. And here in this movie, nobody attacked. I didn't
look at you like I'm about to attack the Soul Forge right now. It's fucking stupid. Not to mention, that posits that there were researchers at some point in Asgard's fucking history that were like, okay, we had to study this quantum whatsits, and all right, now we're gonna rename it the Soul Forge.
No, it's magic. It's a magic name. In our world, magic and science are one and the same.
Shut up, Tommy. It's the same there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not. That was a line I was saying.
Okay, but yeah, but what I mean is like,
I don't think he's defending the Soul Forge.
No.
Well, at some point, like they had to for the. And by the way, the Soul Forge technician knows like about quantum who gives a what's.
It's true. That's like asking the guy giving me the MRI how the nuclear forces work.
It's just fucking stupid. Not to mention, okay,
I don't know. You live 5,000 years. You might be able to know a few things.
That's true.
Hey guys, in a hospital, we're no longer calling it MRIs. They're called Zamboni see-through machines. Yeah, okay, that's gonna happen.
That makes sense for Asgard. You're I don't know. You're grasping at straws with that one.
Just call it a Soul Forge, but don't. And okay, here's the thing. And if Natalie Portman's like, oh, is that the quantum bugsits? Just have the nurse be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's a Soul Forge. Like, we made this. Don't ever be like, yeah, it is. That's exactly scientifically how it works.
Wow, you are such a smart goat.
That fucking annoyed me. The thing that annoyed me even worse is that at times I thought I was watching Power Rangers.
Power Rangers is rad.
The parts with the Dark Elves, the fucking masks, were straight out of a Power Rangers, like old Power Rangers episode. And once again, not just the worst villain, Tommy. The worst henchman of all fucking time. Just abysmal. I'm sorry, we can continue with our regularly scheduled programming. But those are two things I really wanted to touch on, and I just remembered them.
It's time for Secrets of the Marvel Universe. Number one. During one of the opening fights, Thor fights a rock creature known as a Cronin. There's another Cronin that we'll see in a future MC film by the name
named
of Korg.
after David Cronenberg.
You almost fucked that joke up. It landed though,
and
I ain't laughing. But
it makes
landed.
this movie seem a little sad, actually, because like in this one, he says, "Do you want to surrender?" and they just slaughters him.
That's true.
And but we know from future movies that those guys can be cool as shit.
Yeah. A lot of people suspected
just
that
now
was
remember what
Korg.
the fuck you're talking about. Yeah,
the big rock monster.
Which we'll
we'll talk about. We're not
supposed to talk about future movies in depth. So yeah.
Number two, we get to see Odin's Ravens again.
We did.
Not really much of a secret of the Marvel Universe, but I was talking to my wife about this after watching this movie. She was like, do you feel like doing this whole preparation Avengers thing is making these movies better or worse? And I said, overall, it's making them better because all the like research and stuff that goes into it and all the stuff that I was just watching from the perspective of a movie and now watching them as like a big overarching narrative that has all these references and things like that. Now knowing that like Odin's ravens or crows or whatever the hell they are in multiple movies and you see them doing You see them kind of being spies multiple different times. That's stuff I definitely wouldn't have caught unless we were doing something like this. So I think that's cool. Number 3, in London, there's a poster that says, "Live the journey, explore the mystery." Another reference to the comics Journey into Mystery, like what we had in the first Thor.
Yep.
Number 4, when Thor goes to Loki to get his help, we see a group of captives known as the Marauders. In the comics, the Marauders are a group of mutant assassins employed by the X-Men villain, Mr. Sinister.
What the hell are they doing here is what I was wondering.
No telling.
Being in a shitty movie.
That's true.
They're like, if we're going to put shitty X-Men characters in a movie, might as well make it the
shittiest movie.
Number 5, just before Loki detonates a black hole grenade, he says, "I'll see you in hell." This is, of course, not the Christian version of hell, but the Asgardian afterlife hell.
Oh, that's interesting. I just referenced it. I thought it was another reference to The Empire Strikes Back.
Maybe it was.
When Han Solo...
Double-sided meaning.
I thought it was just who gives a shit about continuity and world building.
I did like that as a weapon, though. That was a particularly horrifying
Because wouldn't it be
weapon.
Hades?
No, that's Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
I think
You're not wrong.
Uh,
It just depends on the religious culture.
I'm trying to remember the Norse version.
It's funny, like going back and reading all these Easter eggs, and they talk about, they're like, yeah, he mentions hell, and they're like, so there's all these rumors and speculation that the third Thor movie will be Ragnarok, and it'll have hell in it and stuff. And reading this from like 2013 is pretty funny. Number 6, there are several Easter eggs on the chalkboard in the mental institution that Eric Selvig is in. So the scene that also includes our friend Stanley scene. Number 1, the World Tree could be seen.
Yep.
Number 2, the Fault, which was a rift in space-time. The words of the Fault are written on the chalkboard. It was a rift in space-time formed during comic book arc The Thanos Imperative. Number 3, you can also see the word 616 universe, which is the primary universe that most of the Marvel comics take place in.
That one was a little disturbing to me because if you live in the 616 universe, you do not call it the 616 universe.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that's just a... Hey, if you're
the
paying
movies
attention.
don't take place in the 616 universe. They take place in a different universe.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
why is he talking about the 616 universe?
Yeah,
'Cause it's
that
an
makes
Easter
it
egg.
even less sense.
Yeah, no, that just... can I change my score? I'd like to lower it. You can't do that to me, Tommy.
Number 6.4, the word crossroads is also written down. This is a reference to a comic arc where Doctor Strange isolates the Hulk during one of his rampages, puts him in a place called the Crossroads.
Why?
It's kind of a precursor to Planet Hulk.
I see.
Number 6.5, there's the words Kyle plus Yost equals X is written on the board. Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost were executive producers on Thor: The Dark World, and they also created X-23, who was the teenage female clone of Wolverine. Number 6.6, and this is the final chalkboard reference. There was another one, but I didn't write it down. Simonson's theory of relativity appears on the chalkboard. Simonson is one of the writers on Thor and is responsible for introducing Beta Ray Bill.
Oh, cool.
Beta male Bill, what?
Beta Ray Bill,
He's the horse-headed guy.
who's worthy of
the
wielding
hammer.
his
Buffalo
hammer.
Bill?
Yes, Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill.
Number 7. During the convergence, you can see several of the realms, including the realm of fire.
You can.
You can see the outline of Surtur.
Not that muspel fire.
Surtur. Surtur is the fire demon who attempts to bring about Ragnarok, and we will be seeing
Him
Surtur.
again soon.
Wait, you see him in the
Yeah,
movie?
he's
You
sort
see
of
his silhouette.
he's sort of
I
in the
see.
background.
When Malekith is looking up and he sees all the worlds converging, you can see it there. It's time for DKP's favorite segment, getting your rocks off.
It's what do I have a cue for that?
Nope.
Okay.
Do you want a cue?
You looked at me expecting like
All right, quick, get your rocks
like
off.
fuck, what am I forgetting?
So Odin says when referring to the ether, they are usually stones, but this one is different. So this is the reality stone.
Yep.
Also known as ether. The stone color is red. Huh?
Yep.
Huh?
Indeed
Red?
it is.
The original containment unit is ether. The current location is Nowhere inside the Collector's Museum. Nowhere is the name. We'll hear more about the term Nowhere in 2 movies.
I was
from
actually really shocked by this. I apparently had not seen the ending credits.
The post-credits
Are we
scene?
going to talk about the post credits?
We are, yes.
Okay, I'll hold off for that.
So yeah, it's currently in the Collector's Museum. The current owner is Tandalier Tiven, who is the collector. The previous owners were the Cosmic Entities. Malekith until 2988 BC. Bor in 2988 BC took over until and puts it in Asgard until Jane Foster gets a hold of it in 2013.
Yeah.
Malekith gets it in 2013. Then it goes back to Asgard, and then it goes back to the Collector in the post-credit scene. So the description: the ether appears as a dark red, vicious liquid. It acts like a symbiotic force capable of being absorbed into the body of a living host, giving the user the ability to warp reality at will, granting that person immense strength, durability, powers, and subjective influence over the universe.
None of which Jane did other than to like throw some cops around.
Nope. Malekith planned to use the Ether's reality-bending abilities to cover all 9 realms in darkness. However, he was stopped by the combined efforts of Thor and Jane Foster. Only 2 people, Jane Foster and Malekith, are known to have been hosts for the Ether, but circumstances prevented the full extent of the Ether's potential from being explored. It is later shown that the Ether is actually an Infinity Stone contained in liquid form, and in Thor's vision, which we'll see later, this liquid solidifies into a red reality stone.
I was disappointed they didn't do more with that. I think that the idea of being able to manipulate and warp reality it's a fascinating idea. It can be like it's a real Black Mirror / Twilight Zone-y kind of a situation, like you careful what you wish for sort of a thing. And I think that they one of the many better movies that this could have explored that.
Absolutely.
Yep, I agree.
Time to move on to our friend Stanley.
Stanley.
Peb, what was Stanley doing in this movie?
So Eric,
Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton,
We know
Eric
the one.
Savick, or I mispronounced it, Selvig,
Yeah.
is standing in front of a chalkboard, and he is doing the classic thing in a Marvel movie where he describes the plan for how we're going to save the universe, and it's brilliant, and it's a wonderful, exciting, we're all into it, and then the scene pans up. Oh, and during it, he makes several references to shoes, and he uses shoes as representations of the world for some reason, and the scene pans up, and we discover that he's been sitting in an insane asylum the whole time, explaining his stories to a bunch of uninterested guys, one of which is Stan Lee sitting there, who looks up and says, "Can I have my shoe back?"
Yeah.
I thought this was hilarious. This was the perfect Stan Lee moment for me. I thought this is my favorite of the Stan Lee appearances so far. It was funny.
Fucking kidding.
No, it was funny. It was quick. It's second only to Thor 1, where Stan Lee is trying to use the 4x4 to pull off to pick up Mjolnir. So it was hilarious. It was super fast. You knew exactly who he was, though, and it really talked about how stupid some of the tropes in these movies are. So I loved it.
Go ahead, DKP. You're emoting.
You are.
Yeah, it's a call out that I'm mode. I was gonna get to it at some point. No, here's the thing, Pepe, and this is a great trait for you to have that a lot of people don't have. When you're saying that pointing out things that are stupid in these movies, I don't think that's what they were doing. I think they were doing exactly what are stupid in these movies. But it's like to be able to read into it and enjoy something more. That's always a good thing. I never want my friends to watch a shitty movie and have a bad time. You know what I mean?
Are you talking shit about Peb? I can't tell if that's a compliment.
No, I can't either.
Some
No, I
shit
mean
talking.
what I mean is like
That compliment was a lot like Thor: The Dark World.
no. What I mean is like
this or not. Wait, I'm not.
It's all a matter of like who knows. Maybe they did. Maybe the intern thing was. I personally don't think so.
I am cutting them a lot of credit.
It's like it's giving them more credit than I think that they're due, and I think that yeah, and I'm saying it's actually a good trait because it helps you enjoy the movie more. And anytime I don't want my friend to go see a movie that I hate and come out being like, yeah, it sucked. Like if they're like, oh, I really liked it, it's like, man, no, I wanted you to have a terrible time. That's not my intention. So like it was a legit compliment, but I was saying like I don't know if
That compliment reminds me of like.
I
let's
think
say,
it was hacky. Like I don't know.
No, I
It
get
seemed
you.
too obvious.
I'm a little bit of a chunky fellow. Let's say I'm wearing like a really tight shirt, and Peb's like, "I really appreciate your confidence, Major Tom." Where it's like,
It was a little like that.
it
Yeah.
was like that.
I didn't mean for it to sound insulting.
Where it's like
You were so optimistic, Paul, and
I
enjoying
appreciate how you are carrying yourself in this shirt that is probably a little too tight on you.
I mean that like you have to be plenty optimistic to take some of the scenes and like give them the benefit of the doubt. They're like, no, there's got to be a deeper meaning to this. Like, yeah, but it's maybe I'm just too cynical, and there's no way there is.
No, you definitely are too cynical.
But yes,
It's okay though.
But I mean, did you know we just watched with Dark Elves?
Oh no, I'm not saying the movie
I'm not
was good.
defending
You're
the
not
movie
wrong.
at
Yeah,
all.
you're not
Yeah, you're
wrong
not
on
wrong.
your opinion of this
And-
movie.
All right,
And
thank
the
you.
chances that they intentionally did it, and I couldn't say one way or another.
Well, me
I'm just saying
me
that's
neither.
what I got out of it. So
No, I
it
mean
worked
that
for me.
makes more sense because like if you got the same thing I got out, that's why I was like, what the fuck? How is this the best Stan Lee moment? I can't think of a better one.
Because I felt like it was making fun of the movie.
I can't remember any of them. Really.
I thought that the whole story that he was describing was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard, and was the only place that you would ever hear something so stupid would be in an insane asylum, and then when they pan up and they're in an insane asylum,
See,
that works.
I
for me.
think that's where like I also got lost a little bit. I thought at first like it looks like he's teaching a college course.
Yeah,
It does.
I
that's
got
what,
that.
That's what we're supposed to think. Yeah.
Then I thought he was just like working at an old folks home.
Oh, like you didn't think he had been thrown in?
I didn't see him as an
yeah.
insane. So I thought that he was because all the other people in the room were like geriatrics.
They were
to some
sort of
degree.
older.
So I thought like
You're
I'm
saying
washed
Stan
up.
Lee is a geriatric.
I now teach like
I think
I
that's
don't
a
know.
fair
I now
statement.
teach like a community college course at a retirement home.
About conjunction of Norse.
So the problem
realms.
here is,
But like clearly
think
the
if he
guy's
just didn't
unhinged,
get it.
right? Yeah, you know what, Pep, I think
I'm
you're
just
right.
kidding.
It was far too highbrow, and I'm too lowbrow of a guy. Pep's a little bit highbrow. I'm not going to do the rest of it.
please don't.
We appreciate it.
All right, let's move on to the post credits. Get out your fucking checkbook moment.
All right, boys, get out your fucking checkbook. Now, normally I would scream it loud, but we're recording at my place tonight, and 4 feet away are my neighbors through a paper thin wall. So yes, get out them checkbooks, boys.
Get out your fucking checkbook.
So we had a mid credit scene and a post credit scene. Our mid credit scene is what I would say is, at least as far as these two scenes go, is the cooler of the two scenes. We see Lady Sif and Volstagg bring the ether to the collector.
This might be like my favorite post-credit scene out of any movie ever of all time. It's got Benicio del Toro in it, which is fucking awesome. And it's like, hey, Guardians is coming.
One
Which, like-
down, 5 to go.
I felt that it was really good at setting the tone for the upcoming movies. It clearly said, hey, these movies are going to be about Infinity Stones now. Start looking for them. Start figuring out where they are. We've given you 2. There's a Tesseract and an Ether.
Yeah, we're building to something big.
We're building, and so that would work for me. And I love that actor. And he's such his weird motions.
Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del
Yeah,
Toro.
he's great.
Like the way he would said thank you, and the way he like used his whole body to say give me the thing, and it was strange and alien and non-human, and I loved it.
What else I really appreciate about this scene is his assistant is the same person in this and
she
Guardians
is,
of the
yeah.
Galaxy as well. I thought that was cool. It's like not just we got Benicio del Toro to do this scene because he's in Guardians, but we also got this other like very small character to also appear.
But it did create some problems for me, and that one of them is it makes Guardians. It annoys me that the ether is still there, right? Let's talk about this after Guardians. So this created
Yes.
complexities after Guardians that I didn't have because I had honestly forgotten about this scene.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about this after Guardians, which is coming right up.
Okay, cool. Then we had a post-credit scene. Thor returns to give his slam piece a nice little kiss on the mouth.
Again, the only scene where there was any chemistry between the two of them, which now makes sense because it wasn't Natalie Portman.
Yeah. And then we also get to see one of those beasts from Jotunheim
hanging out.
Yeah, hanging out in Greenwich. Chilling.
I thought that was all right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Where's Shield at? Come on.
I have to gauge these or like measure them for how good I think they are. I'm like, if I waited through the incredibly long, boring credits in the theater while needing to piss probably, and I just saw like Thor smooching her, I'd have been furious. But then we did get to see the thing that was behind, I don't know, being chasing birds, and it's like, okay, it's not that bad. And the mid-credit scene was great, I thought.
It'd be cool if that guy came back. He could be a minor piece, or like it would have been a great thing to put into our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or...
Well, I was actually going to say in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there is, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. runs parallel to these.
Yep.
And they actually, like, have things that call to and from the different movies. And there's actually a scene where they have to go clean up. What's the name of that, like, site where the finale took place, where like the big ship goes through the water and it starts tearing up the ground?
That's Greenwich. That's the...
What's the name of that building?
It's a...
Well, it doesn't matter.
It's
regardless. There's
the
one where
center of time.
It's the center of time in the world.
The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have to go clean up. They're on cleanup duty.
Meridian?
And let's just say it's Meridian.
Vibranium.
But yeah, there's a scene in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where they have to go to that site and they have to clean up the mess. I thought that was kind of cool.
Wait a minute. I remember that now. And they're all bitching about it. Like, why didn't they call us or something like that? That's actually a pretty good joke considering that she was trying to call her.
I really feel like I should watch this show, but I don't think I'd like it.
I don't think you would like it. I barely don't like it. I mean, I barely like it.
I find myself watching it and thinking, why am I watching this again?
I haven't watched it in 2.5 years or so.
So they occasionally do really cool things, like this last one happened entirely in space this last season. It was fun.
There was one.
It's Avengers in space.
It was. Yeah.
When they started losing me was when like the Inhuman stuff started happening, and there's like a giant Sonic the Hedgehog looking dude.
So they figured out that nobody liked that, and then at the end of one season they just stopped doing it.
Once again, we need MODOK somewhere.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like there are some crazy shit happening on this show, like Ghost Rider's in it.
Yes.
And it didn't make it to Ghost Rider, but like there are some big things that's like, no, at least one of the Avengers should be here. At least one of them.
Yeah, it's hilarious how you can have the show that runs parallel, it's supposedly like that close, and have none of the main actors in
At least the Netflix MCU shows like are meant to be smaller scale, and they're dealing with smaller issues, and like they make more sense.
It seems like you could get Hawkeye to show up one afternoon.
Dude,
let's just get
if you've ever been more on the money, it's who they could get to appear, and it's fucking Hawkeye. You take the two worst characters, you go, well, at least Scarlett Johansson's got a legit ass career. Where's old what's his face?
Jeremy Renner. Yeah.
We could get him, I'm sure.
Pep, you know what I see in your future?
What do you see in my future?
Possibility.
Sodomy.
Our next movie, which I am overwhelmingly...
Shout out to Pep's mom.
Hey, you got it in there.
Dude, I was worried I wasn't going to get one
coming
this
to the
time.
end. I know.
Next movie I'm overwhelmingly excited about, and we're watching it in 2 days, so the episode will be up in 2 days. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is our next movie. So, what do you guys think that you will score Captain America: The Winter Soldier?
So I think we should talk about how Idify scored it, because I think that's going to help set our tone for what we're going to
if we have
score.
any long-term listeners, I want you to take a big solid guess right now what he thinks he's going to score it.
What?
Hey,
And
of all movies,
I know you're listening to this. Typical. That's what I got to say.
Of all movies that he has the potential to score outrageously, this would be, if depending on what his score is, this is the one that I support the most.
Idify believes that he will score this a 10.
Shocker.
That is
that's a sincere clap, because that's my boy.
That's right. That's awesome. I personally so I didn't enjoy this movie the first time I saw it, and the reason I didn't like
up
it
top.
Oh, all right. So the reason I didn't like it
for our audio listeners, because there
I was
are
hoping
only audio
we have a little
listeners.
bit louder of a high five.
There was a really effort-filled, amazing high five that just happened.
It was incredible. So I didn't enjoy this the first time I saw it, and the reason I didn't enjoy it is that I had not seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I would rate that high five a 10 out of 10.
Oh.
I think that's how I'm going to rate it later.
Interesting.
But I'm sorry, go on.
Is that on the Idify scale? So
yes.
So I had a hard time with this the first time I saw it. So I'm going to score it the way I did, where I felt about it, because now going back to it, I feel like I'm going to enjoy it a lot more, but I want to see the difference. So I originally thought this was like a 6. And so I'm going to score it that way, even though having seen other things since then, I think that I will enjoy it much more this time than I did that time.
So you're going with a 6?
I am.
DKP?
I had no idea me and Peb jive so much on this. As you know, I hate the Winter Soldier and everything to do with him.
Yep, it's true.
He's the worst thing to happen like since polio. It's like you just every time you think you got rid of it,
But
find out it's not exactly all the way gone.
You're like Malekith, way better than Winter Soldier.
Come on, let's not be absurd here.
I feel like you're being absurd.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna give it. God, it's got Scarlett Johansson and Captain America. This is weird. I can't believe I'm thinking I'm gonna score it higher than Pep. I think I'm gonna give it 6.5.
All right.
Since this movie has come out, this has been my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of like, oh, I might like Guardians more, but like based on the time separation. What?
What are you gonna score it out of 5? I'm sorry. What?
I haven't said.
I
What
see
I'm
where this is going.
I'll say this: it's not going to be a 10.
Oh, okay.
I don't intend to give any of these movies a 10. I adore this movie. I love the whole spy espionage, like 1970s thriller thing that it has going on. I'm a big Captain America fan. 9.8.
All right.
I mean, might as fucking well be a 10. But
So,
Sure.
shall I give my summary of what I remember from this movie?
Please do.
All right. So what I remember of this movie is that Captain America goes jogging with his newly met best bud, and it's awesome. It is
On your left.
awesome. On your left. It's brilliant. And then there's a bunch of running and a bunch of jumping.
That is true.
And some helicarriers fall out of the sky.
True.
And then the movie ends. That's what I remember.
you just jogged my memory on a lot of things I did not remember about that movie. Yeah.
So catch us on Saturday or Sunday when this comes out, and you can find out if it holds up. If it holds up.
Or if it's just as shitty as I remember it. Or what if I'm like, man, I was wrong, boys. Winter Soldier is the most interesting person.
I
in the
honestly
world.
believe, but it might just be I honestly hope that both of you guys enjoy it more.
Me too. I have to watch this fucking like 2.5 hour long potential piece of shit.
Whoa. Dude, don't be complaining. You just watched Thor: The Dark World. Like, it's all up from here.
Dude, no less than 12 hours ago I fucking watched it. I've got plenty to complain about. I'm not ready to do this again.
That's fair.
Which one comes after?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Dude, Guardians,
I'm telling
man.
you, yeah. We're all excited.
That's like one of the few Marvel movies I've watched again outside of theaters. I still don't know what I'm going to score because I need to like sit and watch it critically and whatever, but I know at least
It's a
I won't
very
be
good
fucking
movie.
miserable.
It's very fun.
Any movie with John C. Reilly in it is fucking okay to me.
Anybody have anything else to say about Thor: The Dark World or the potential future that lies ahead for us with Captain America?
I'm all good. I'm looking forward to reviewing these movies as they come. I think we're in an interesting stretch.
DKP?
No.
Okay. Well, that's it for this week's Preparation Avengers. Join us next week where we'll be discussing Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Don't forget to like the video. It really helps us get the word out there. Subscribe to the channel to see when the next episodes go live. You can also follow us on Twitter and Twitch to watch any of our gaming streams and shows, stuff like that. Our panel one last time, Danny.
Yes, sir.
Paul.
That's me.
And I'm Thomas. Don't forget, Baskin Robbins always finds out.